My name is Sneed of S-Class Productions. Man, I was born and raised in Pasadena, California, man, right here. You know what, man? Growing up in Pasadena is great, man. My childhood memories are very great, man. A lot of my same friends I'm still friends with from elementary, middle school, and high school, and even a few college years, man. So I still hold those relationships near and dear to me, man. I hang out with my brothers on a regular basis, man. We always talking business. We always talking about how to advance ourselves. We're always doing some type of intervention work, and we just try to keep each other inspired, man. You know what I mean? Like, but it wasn't all flowers. You know what I mean? Like we had to deal with some things growing up here, man. You know, growing up in the '80s, it was tough. You know what I mean? We were like, that's like the peak of the gang activity during the '80s and the '90s. So we caught that era, you know what I mean? And not to mention, we were in the middle of the crack era too, where our parents and, you know, I know my father and my uncles, they struggled with that too. So as residuals effect, I was affected. My homies was affected, man. A lot of my homeboys didn't really have fathers in the house. My father was present, but only for a while. And even when he wasn't present, he was present, but, you know, we need that hands-on, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of brothers band together to create that support with one another. Man, when I talk to my boys, I honestly say, man, we survived, bro. Like, being a young man walking these streets, we used to play basketball at Washington Park every day, you know what I'm saying? And we saw some ill stuff go down, man. And some of those nights, man, we just walking home from the park, man, we done been rolled up on. I remember one time specifically, man, we was rolled up on, young man put the gun right out the window and just stared us up and down. And I'm looking at my boy like, this really might be it tonight. And by the grace of God, nothing happened to us, but man, we had many of those encounters, bro. Like, people just ran up on us thinking, I'm this, or I'm that, or you look like so-and-so. And man, you know, I think just naturally, my attitude and just how I approach things, like, man, I'm just trying to be a calm person to where I don't seem like I'm from that lifestyle. To the point where they're like, okay, I think, homie, he ain't really with this, so we could go ahead and leave him alone and get him out the way. But I think man, that could have been any of my homies, and any of us could have been a victim on any of those nights, man. So I know I'm blessed to be here, man, and that's what it feels like, you know, it drives your purpose, bro. Like, you know, a lot of things could have happened to you, you know what I mean? As a young man, we've seen people get killed, you know what I mean? Like, that's something ill to speak about, man, you know, but that's one of those memories that was traumatic, that was very traumatizing to me, man. You know what I mean? I don't speak about it much, but that experience, like, man, it always sits in the back of my head. So I think about these young men and young women who've gone through some stuff, man, and sometimes these traumatic experiences are not talked about, processed, and dealt with, and sometimes they stick with you. I grew up where, you know what I'm saying, the men in my family struggled with drug addiction. I got a few that have been locked up pretty much their whole life to gangbanging, and even some young cousins who started slanging dope. So here I am in the mix, and as I'm looking around my community, I'm even looking around my own family, sometimes it's hard to find something positive in that mix. But, you know, my mom stayed strong on, man, you gotta pursue something, you gotta be something, you gotta go hard. And then, you know, one of her classic saying is, man, you ain't gotta make all the mistakes yourself, learn from others, you know what I'm saying? When I'm looking around, I'm looking at the men in my family like nobody's really successful. You know what I mean? So it kind of hurts my feelings, bro, because it's like, you know, in some other communities, people have mentors and they got family members who can kind of give them an avenue and support them and show them a skill or show them a trade. And in our neighborhood, we didn't have that. So we banded together as homies. Just luckily, the homies I chose to surround myself with wasn't with that. But when we go out in the community, they was very present. You know what I'm saying? Some of my closest homies was in the life. And I had to learn, like, man, I love them, but I realized I can't be around them all the time because my life has taken a different path. I was a behavior specialist at Longfellow, so at 19, I had landed a position where it kind of made me be more responsible. These young men are looking up to me, so for the first time, I'm somebody's example. So me knowing I'm an example, I went hard on trying to be a positive one because I know how it is for a lot of us don't have positive examples. So, you know, being in this community all these years, you know, it was been great to see kids go from kindergarten to now they're 24, they see me in the streets and it's still Mr. Sneed. I remember some of the things you said to me, and I remember the love, and you used to play with us and you really cared, you know what I mean? Like, that is what it's about, bro. So that's why I feel blessed to be able to have done that. When me and my boys first got started in music, man, it was a collaborative effort. Like, music was one of those things where we came together to fellowship. It was actually a vice to keep us out of trouble. it started, I remember, man, just went down to PCC, man. We was swiping, we was getting free credit cards for signing up to get t-shirts and stuff, and they actually came, you know what I'm saying? So as a young man, here I am at PCC, I actually got a credit card. The first thing I did was went and bought myself a beat machine. And then the other homie went and bought a keyboard. And then the other homie went and bought a mixer. And then it was like, man, well, where are we gonna do all this, where are we gonna assemble all this stuff to come together to actually engage this thing? And, you know, my homie Paco, man, his mom, Sylvia Schwartz, she's always been just a sweet, awesome lady who always allowed all the homies to come and congregate at her house. My mom wasn't having it. We had another homie who we did that at his house, but then it eventually transferred into my homie's den. Paco Schwartz, at the time, his den, we transformed into a full-on little production studio. That's where we kind of started honing in our skills and learning how to make beats and trying to figure it out. But to be honest, what it was really about was the brotherhood and really coming together and staying out the streets, because right up the street is going down. Right down the street is going down. So we locked ourselves in the room and we was learning how to make beats and finding out who were the singers and who were the rappers in our community and inviting them over and just trying to create something positive with ourselves, because we saw the ills going on in our community. We saw what was happening, you know what I'm saying? We hearing about homies who no longer here. We hearing the gunshots at night, you know what I mean? So we was like, man, we don't want to go down that path. We want to do something that's going to be positive and that could possibly make us some money. You know what I mean? And that led us to even building our own studio. We've been up and functioning for a full year, man. It took us 3 years to build, and we just now been fully functioning for a first year. Man, that was a blessing, man, to come together with some of your closest homies, put some bread together, and really pursue a dream, man. That's definitely something I'm very proud of. There was a few steps in that process of coming to this conclusion, man. About a year and a half ago, man, I was presented with an opportunity to be intervention specialist district-wide for PUSD. When I was brought on, I was asked to put together something that addresses gang violence for the youth. So I started doing all this research, man, and I came up with a pretty dope presentation, you know what I mean? And when I got a chance to present to some of these youth, man, at the end of the presentation, they would come up to me and be like, man, that was some good information. I like how you approached it. And then they would share how they've been impacted. And I knew, like, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, you know, things didn't work out in the sense that the PUSD had a budget cut, so I ended up getting laid off. Well, when I got laid off, the passion to give back and the passion to do something, and I just spent a whole year compiling information and creating this presentation, I didn't want my work and my efforts to die. So I was like, man, well, what am I gonna do? So now I'm searching for purpose. I had ended up joining the Violence Prevention Planning Committee with the City of Pasadena. And as I sat and we talked about all this stuff and we talked about prevention, I was inspired, man. I was inspired, and I was like, man, this is what it's about, when people come together to really spark change. I'm like, man, I'm inspired. You know, my only thing is like, I try to internalize things for myself. And I was like, what can I do personally? And I was like, man, I can actually come up with a film, because when I'm in these formal settings talking about these things, I feel like the voices of those who are impacted the most are never at the table to have these discussions. So I feel like to come up with a discussion without that input almost doesn't make sense. So I'm looking at this like, well, what could I do to bring this all together? And I was like, man, I think I could do a documentary film that addresses the issue, that brings people together, and that ultimately explores solutions to reduce it. So I went to my partners first, Jason Harden, Mike Towns, Paco Schwartz, and I just sat down with them. I just said, man, well, this is my vision. What do y'all feel about it? Everybody was like, man, we on board. We all usually support each other anyway, but something on this magnitude that can be impactful, the brothers was on board. And I mean, I knew they would, but now having their blessing and knowing we was moving forward, it excited me. So I hit the ground running, man. We've been doing interview after interview, man. We about 15, 16 interviews in. We connecting with the streets to get their take on it, but then we're also reaching out to professionals who are from here, who've been through these things and actually working in this field. So I'm hoping that the film is gonna be a bridge for everybody to hear these different perspectives, so when we come together collectively, we can actually come up with something positive. We can actually come up, maybe something that this young man says will spark something that City city professional or a district professional where we can hybrid the two and actually come up with a positive intervention or positive supports. You know what I mean? And honestly, I didn't realize how big this thing is gonna be. You know what I mean? But as I'm hearing these stories and I'm listening to these young men speak and talk about their experiences, man, it's very powerful, man. It's very impactful. When I sit and I listen to it and I go back and I'm watching the footage, I'm like, man, I think we got something. And I'm just doing my best with the time I have to make something great that's gonna outlive me and that will live forever. You know what I mean? So that could be our stamp in history. So when you go back, you know, these brothers were serious and they really meant to try to spark change. Man, to be honest, bro, I'm trying to go as big as I can, man. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the only limitations we have are those we put on ourselves, bro. I'm going all out. The homies is riding. We doing it, man. We raising fun. We trying to have a grand opening night. You know what I'm saying? We've already looked into the ArcLight Theater. We already know what the pricing is. That's what part of raising the funds is about. We're going after it, man. We want to have a grand night. We want to have a full-on event that leads up to the night. We want to have a release, man. I want people from the community to come out. I want some of these young men to come out. I want the city professionals to come out. You know what I mean? And I want everybody to be inspired. And not only are we doing a film, but we're doing a forum after each screening. So at the end of it, it gives all the audience and all the participants who came out to actually be a part of it and ask some questions and share their thoughts and become a part of the situation and even learn how to get involved. And that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna have a film, then we're gonna have a forum, and then we'll have like a little mingling thing where people can network and connect with each other. And if you want to learn how to be a part of an organization or be a mentor somewhere, we will definitely have that information for everybody. So Made in Dina was a movement that we came up with, originally created by Jason Harden, and we talked about how to connect our projects with cause. And we was like, we can use the Made in Dina movement as a movement to also support the film. So if you guys would like to support us or you would like to support the Made in Dina brand, please feel free to visit hardwayenterprise.com or you can visit xclass.com, excuse me, and you can support there. And you can also, that also leads you to the GoFundMe from there. And if you would like to support in the process of the making of the film or the post of the film, we greatly appreciate it.